Hi everyone, I'm really excited to introduce you to my guest all the way from the USA, Jill Lublin, today. And I'm so pleased that she's agreed to come on to be my guest on my podcast. So, hi Jill.
So great to be here with you.
Thank you so much. So a little short introduction. So my dear friend Jill Lublin here, she's an international speaker on the topics of radical influence, publicity, networking, kindness, and referrals. And she's the author of 4 best-selling books, and which we are going to talk about her latest one. And as many of my listeners know that I'm also writing my own book. So definitely I'm so honored to actually have her who wrote best-selling books to be interviewed, and I'm really excited to ask her with my questions. So, and her latest book is The Prophet of Kindness, which went on #1 in 4 categories. So Jill is a master strategist on how to position your business for more profitability and more visibility in the marketplace. She's a CEO of a strategic consulting firm and has over 25 years working with over 100,000 people, plus national and international media. So she teaches a virtual publicity crash course, and she consults and speaks all over the world. She also helps authors to create book deals with major publisher and agents, as well as obtain foreign rights and deals. So if you're interested in a publicity crash course, you can go through the link, and I will have the links at the end in the details. So first of all, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much. Delightful to be here with you.
Wow, really happy to have you here. So first of all, tell us about your new book, because I look at all the books that you have written early on, and I felt this one have a slightly different approach, or I don't know, because it talks about kindness. And so why don't you, words, tell us about what prompted you to write a book and what's the book all about?
Absolutely. Thank you. So The Prophet of Kindness is it is my 4th book. And it's really about how to use kindness in the marketplace. So I go over 7, what I call return on kindness principles. So everybody's always concerned about ROI, right? You also need to be thinking about ROK, rocks. And those are return on kindness principles, things like patience and flexibility. That's 2 of them, that are so important in these times. What prompted me to write it is actually my 85-year-old friend who, we've been friends for over 20 years, wonderful relationship, and a very dynamic and terrific woman. And, as she's gotten older, I've been helping care for her and all kinds of things that are involved in that, like running over if she falls and taking her to doctor's appointments. And one day she looked at me and she said, "Jill, you are so kind. I think we should have a new currency," she said, "the currency of kindness." That's where it all started. That's where the Prophet of Kindness got born.
So how did you I get it, sometimes through life experiences we learn about gratitude, we learn about what really matters to the heart, we learn about kindness, whether giving or receiving. But in the previous book, it's very much focused on business, marketing, how to make things work, how to make things happen. There's a very different energy to it. So how did you manage to combine the 2 strengths together? Because I don't think they be, as a wholehearted person, I don't think they're separate, but as an author and as a businesswoman, you know what I'm trying to say, that sometimes we juggle. How do we combine the 2 and make it really complement each other?
So here's what I'm going to say. It's interesting because kind companies get lots of publicity. Now, I wrote the book Guerrilla Publicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I know. Perception is everything. When you are a kind company, when you're known for that, when you're doing commercials about that, which many companies are right now. There's a huge healthcare company, Dignity Health, doing a human kindness campaign. Now they're using these words right in their campaigns, right? So here's the deal: when you're a kind company, you get better publicity. That's it. Just all ties together, actually. And so Guerrilla Publicity, yes, is about how to get more publicity, and Prophet of Kindness is being more profitable by being kind, and they tie very much together in a nice bow that from a public perception standpoint, and they stand on alone and by themselves too. But the truth is they're all business books, because using kindness in business brings you more business. That's just what happens.
So I I really like the fact that you got inspired by your experience with your friend, and it comes from a true place, and it's a through self-reflection and all that. But in your experience, how do we discern? Because what you said, a lot of people in some way know that and learn fast because they know, oh, spirituality sell, or kindness, we just throw the word gratitude out there and it just something will stick, right? So you walk the path and you have done your work looking at the books. So how do you discern when someone quote unquote a real deal? Because some people can just toss all these words together and try to get publicity, try to stand out from this crowd. But how do your approach to discern what is good information, or how do you navigate in this? Because you work with different clients, work with different businesses, and I assume you can't work with everybody, so you have to pick. And how do you discern to pick the right ones?
So, I think picking people you work with in business is a bit like a relationship, right? You have to court, date, and see if it's a good fit. Not everybody has to be my perfect match to be a great, whether I hire them. Sometimes I hire people I'm afraid of, in a way, like that make me a little nervous because it brings me to another edge of myself, particularly coaches, and I believe a lot in investing in coaches and education. I think that's really important. Just like I'm a coach for some, I need to be coached, right? And I think that's important. So the discernment, well, look to see, is there a consistency in their life, in the way they speak, in how they act? I look for that first, right? Is there consistency? Are they the same? Because I'm a speaker and I've also done publicity and helped a lot of speakers, authors, consultants, coaches, particularly, are they the same through all of their environments, right? So if somebody goes on stage and they're one way and then comes off stage and they're really different, well, that'll tell you something right away. So look for many of this, what I call the big signs and the small signs, right? Because for me, it's all one. That's not to say, of course, when I'm speaking to thousands of people, I might have a bigger energy than when I'm speaking to you right here, right now, because you have to amplify your energy and do certain things. However, watch for that kind of consistency. I think that'll cue you in.
Yeah, I love that, because the on-stage and off-stage personality, it's quite important. And like, not comparable, but I resonate with that, because I remember when back in dating days, sometimes you go out for coffee with a man and they treat the waitress really poorly, or very like, uncomfortable in that environment, or whatever that you just picked up. That's just not consistent with how this person is presenting himself or herself to you one-to-one, or like in a fancy restaurant versus in a really just a around the corner cafe. And I think, that picture paint a better picture, the on-stage and off-stage personality.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all the little things, pay attention to the little things. And I think that'll show you a lot of who a person is. And the other thing, I've always laughed because people will tell you they are with, well, I'm a difficult person. And my next phrase is, I have a great referral for you. Because I don't want to work with difficult people. I want my clients to be wonderful to work with, to be easy to work with, to be joyful to work with. That's not to say there's times where we're working through some things, right? But I want great people to work with. So I just think for all of us, we have to decide what works for us, right? In our lives.
And like that really sparked my interest now, because like, okay, so you're hiring or working with clients, so both directions. And you mentioned that you don't want to work with difficult people, both again hiring or working with. But then you also mentioned earlier about sometimes you want to work with people you may be scared of. I mean, in the sense that it challenges, I suppose, that what you're referring to with hiring coaches that may scare you.
Yes.
So how do you okay, so tell me a little bit more. I want to dig deeper about this, difficult versus challenging in a good way. Sometimes difficult can be masked as
Right.
something actually you need to deal with.
Well, exactly. So it's, what I pay attention to, where does my heart race a little bit? That
Mm,
includes if somebody's talking to me about working with them, but more so when I'm choosing coaches and or people I'm going to work with, if I feel, when I meant a little bit afraid, what I'm saying is I am challenged. Yes. I have to raise up a level. Yes. One of my coaches said that, he's a toe ahead of me in the water, right?
mm,
I mean, I'm accomplished, so is he. And there are so many things he knows. So I also want to fill in the gap where I have blanks. So it might be in the area of financial support. It just depends what you need in terms of where you're at and where you need the holes filled in.
mm.
And I think that's a good way to decide, do they have those skill sets? I do have two kinds of coaches. One's really good at like sales and marketing, and that's how he thinks. Another one's more financially rooted and grounded in that. He wants to see my numbers. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I can't do my, when I first started with him, I used to laugh because I told him I didn't know my P&L from a B&L. That stands for profit and loss, just for those of you who don't know.
And
But,
B&L?
I made it up.
It's hard for us to believe because all of your books have a clear like business, expertise, behind it. Then when you say, once upon a time, you were quite afraid of it. It's almost like, really?
Well, I wasn't afraid of business, but I was afraid of the financial aspects. I didn't have a handle on how to read a financial statement, on how to create forecasting for my business, on my expense versus, everything else. And, by the way, it's still not my most profound skill set. I mean, I am great at publicity. I am great at messaging. I am great at helping people get book deals with major publishers and agents. That I know how to do, right? But what I also know as a businesswoman is that you get team to do the rest. I have a bookkeeper and a CPA. They know how to do that. That's their skill set. So make sure, just like people hire me for my marketing knowledge, get the people around you who help you with the things that you don't know as well, that you're a bit deficient in.
Yeah,
That's really important.
yeah. I
That's
get
why
it.
it makes my heart race, because I don't know these things as well as I could. And I don't need to know them.
Yes. And like the same, like I love to write and interview people, but I'm not very good with designing. I mean, I know what I like visually and I can give direction, but I'm not going to spend hours on doing graphics. And even though like, I'm one of those solo mama entrepreneur, I know that I cannot do it all. And just like what you said, pick what you're good at or enjoy rather than doing it all. And I think like, the old saying that pick the battles to win the war. I use it with my work. I use it with my babies.
That's
So
right. Right. You use it in your family and your relationships, right? We use them everywhere because some things are worth fighting for and some things are worth delegating.
yes. And I wanted to go back to a little bit because often I ask that first, but somehow we kind of reverse a little bit. But you did mention, how at the beginning when you met someone to help you with your financial side business. So actually what I got really curious is that now look at you, you got 4 books, you have done this, you accomplished that, people look up to you. But tell me, where did it all begin? Like, tell me the story before you become you. Because a lot of people look at accomplished business person like yourself, they look at it there and they want success there tomorrow or yesterday. But they forget that you must have a story or past or long way before you written 4 books. When you wrote 4 books, it's not like 4 days, right? So tell us a little bit about your background story. That's okay.
Absolutely. So, I came to my business in a circuitous way, like many of us do. And actually, I dropped out of law school because I hated it. And that surprised me because I really wanted to go to law school. You see, I thought being in law school would be a way that I could help people. But then I got to law school. And it was, for my creative mind, a very difficult place to be. So I dropped out, which made me feel honestly like a failure. At that point, I started as a secretary in the music business. And I love that. I was able to get right into the world of music and entertainment, and then kind of worked my way up, and actually found my true calling, which is publicity and promotion. Ended up as director of promotion and publicity at multiple independent record labels. And what was wonderful about that is that's where I learned the power of perception and publicity, right? Then I opened up my own agency and my own consulting firm. And then I call it tapped on the shoulder to write my first book, Guerrilla Publicity. And from there I started speaking, and then I changed everything from a PR agency into a virtual publicity course. And now I'm able to help a lot more people, a lot more affordably, because most people can't afford big fees of PR agencies, you know? So I wanted to find a way around that and help a lot more entrepreneurs. And I managed to succeed. But, you know, along the way, like all of us, you know, ups and downs and all arounds, and learning how to run a business, learning how to manage people, getting also being, you know, at the what would I call it, at the beck and call of others as the director in other places where I worked, you know. So like everything in life, you find your way, and for me the path became clear, but not immediately. And I stumbled and fell, and I still, you know, there's just times where I'll start a project and it falls flat. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Like, for instance, kindness circles. When the Prophet of Kindness came out, I really wanted to do something called kindness circles. Well, it took me a year and a half since the book's been out to start them. Now I am doing them. I'm doing them monthly. They're completely free. And then in November, I'm doing a kindness summit. Now, I wanted that to be a full day program and live. Now, of course, because of our world circumstances, it will be a 3-hour program, and it will be virtual, and that's fine. So this is the thing, you know, don't get too attached to how you always think things need to be, because sometimes they will inform you how they need to be, right? And it depends on what's needed. And I would rather do a 3-hour virtual event than not do anything this year to celebrate World Kindness Day, right? But, you know, my book was written almost 2 years ago, so I'm just getting to that now. I wanted to come out the gate with it, but it was too much. And sometimes, you know, you can't do it all at once. I think patience for entrepreneurs is, well, that could be tough. And certainly that's been one of my roads, is learning more patience, that things unfold sometimes in their own natural ways.
Yeah, so that's perfectly deep into what I want to ask you, because you know, you have walked the path for the last 25 years, that some listeners here is still transitioning into owning the business or been there for a few years. So I want to ask you about some tips that you learned hard way or easy way. And you mentioned patience. But there's another thing I actually been thinking about regarding this, because many people ask for tips as entrepreneur, but so sometimes I wonder, when we face a situation, say you couldn't do the live event, you have to do virtual, but sometimes maybe things don't go away. Maybe we don't get as many clients, we don't sell as many books, or publicity campaign didn't work. Sometimes we face the decision that, should we just fold it? Should we just quit it and say, I need another reincarnation, iteration of my business? Maybe I should go back to law school. You know, those are big cross, you know, point. And I assume after a long journey as yours, you may have a couple of those. So what do we do when we ask those big questions?
Believe me, I asked it 2, maybe 3 years ago. I was, you know, so when you do something, and I love my work, but I like also new things, new projects. I never expected actually to write a 4th book. That kind of showed up. And why I knew it was right is because immediately when all this started happening, the publisher who took the book made it happen really fast, right? And so to me, that was a sign. So I do watch for signs. And you know, I follow a certain amount of intuition and guidance. Now, I was a very goal-oriented person. And interestingly enough, I'd given up certain goals. Like I just try not to stay too tight and too structured. And I like to see what's showing up. Now that took me a while to get to that place, and what feels right to me, what is in alignment with my purpose, my vision, my general philosophy. And I think that's good. But certainly, let me just tell you, I've had many false starts. I've tried programs that didn't work or didn't engage people. Sometimes I wonder why people aren't opening my emails, if it's not a high enough open rate, or, as my coach says, I hate to tell you, but they're not reading all your stuff, for all of us, right? Because there is so much, there's so much noise in the marketplace. So if you're going to pick something you're passionate about that you can stay with for at least a long enough term to see it through. And I do think that some of my success, you want to know what's true, has been that I just stayed in the game, including the times when, by the way, I wanted to quit. I wanted to get a job. I thought, to heck with this. This is too hard. Why don't I just get paid and get benefits and reap the rewards that way? And that, of course, has its own issues and own problems, right? But I kept going. And there were times, believe me, where I didn't know how I was going to pay my staff. I didn't know. I've been there. I really have. I didn't know maybe what the next project was, or maybe I was just bored at different times. And these are all different time frames, because writing a book's exciting, and when you get the book's exciting, but there's all that stuff in between. Yes, the in between, the monotony. Come on, let's be honest. If you're a business owner, you're going to do some things that are monotonous and boring. Now, entrepreneurs in particular are creative generally and dynamic typically, and that's hard to do. But one of the things I'm big on is, as much as you can, start delegating the things you don't like to do, just to take that away and focus on the things you do love to do and that are the most revenue generating. Listen, I have people that I pay in the Philippines, for example, $7 an hour. They're very happy, right? And they're wonderful and great on my team. So there's all kinds of ways that you can create in this environment, wonderful ways to get things done, affordably and inexpensively, and get team and do the things you want to do and not spend a fortune. So that's a beautiful thing. We're very lucky.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because from the outsider perspective, there's like, oh, you have all this success, and they want to hear sometimes that maybe 5 years ago you were questioning the same thing, because sometimes we look at people's success and they are not human, like as in they're all there and we're here and we're like, how am I going to pay the bill? And we don't want to tell anyone because of shame of the fact that we didn't manage to get on top of it. And so there's a lot of weird dynamics that we can talk about it all day, because we love business and love helping people. But to wrap everything together, really, I definitely want to know more about your publicity course, because you created it so that people may not be able to afford the big agency fees can, at least learn something in the crash course. So tell a little bit about the course and maybe the website, or how to get in touch with you if people interested to learn more about your work.
Thank you. So I created a virtual publicity course. This is a no-nonsense, get it done. And we actually get your publicity done in the course. It's live, it's interactive with me, it's a small group, and wonderful breakout rooms, and you don't have to leave your home to do it. That's what's great. And frankly, the other thing people love is it's just very practical and tactical, where I spill all the secrets and give people a real system to get their publicity done, and to do it the right way so that you get real results. It's interesting, in this pandemic, what I've done is I actually lowered all my prices. I did. And that's been really great. So for my pandemic pricing, here's what you do. You go to publicitycrashcourse.com and put in the code STAY VISIBLE, all lowercase, STAY VISIBLE. And that'll give you a great code for a very affordable investment to get your publicity done right. And then if you want to talk to me about publishing or bigger projects, please email me at support@jilllublin.com.
Well, thank you so much today. I've been honored to chat with you and hear from you. And you got 4 wonderful books, and people certainly can grab them from your website. So thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.